Hey, what's up? I'm Hunter Hayes. Welcome to One Mind Brainwaves. I'm so happy you're here. Thanks for joining us. Very grateful to be hosting this week. This is a really special episode, and you'll see why in a second. But we're going to talk about how do individual roles and dynamics change when a family has to confront a mental health crisis together? What are the ingredients for building a trusting partnership to ensure the best possible hope for recovery? In a few minutes, our very own Brandon and Garen Staglin will join and share their family's experience with serious psychiatric illness. It's the story that launched One Mind, and I'm very excited to hear more about it from them and get to have a conversation around it. Also stick around because the folks at One Mind's Cyber Guide will tell us about an app that encourages you to train your mind like you do your body, which I'm really excited to hear about that as well. But first, a multi-instrumentalist, a talented singer-songwriter, joins us from East Nashville. Oh, it makes me miss Nashville. She's an artist and a healer, and both define her music. Here to set the stage for our Father's Day show with a song for Dad, please welcome Megan Palmer. Megan, thank you so much for joining us on Brainwaves. I'm so happy to have you.
Hi, Hunter. It's really great to meet you.
So we always say that music got us through the pandemic, or I guess I've heard a lot of people say music it got me through the pandemic. In addition to being a musician, though, you also work at the Vanderbilt University Medical Center, which is a mouthful for me because it's still early for me in the morning because I'm just a musician. But you also work at Vanderbilt as a registered nurse. And I wanted to talk to you about how the two vocations influence each other for you and how you bring those together, and also the healing power of music.
Sure. I've been a musician since I was probably 6 years old, so I've always been playing music. And then I happened to go to nursing school when I was in my early 20s, and I never stopped being a musician. And then next thing I knew, I was kind of having this dual career where half of the time I was playing music and the other half I was doing nursing. So it's been kind of always a double life for me. But this past year, they really seemed to merge because I really needed the medicine of music to heal my soul as I was taking care of COVID patients and learning about how to cope in a pandemic. So this year, I feel like my right and my left brain merged together to create a head-to-heart connection.
Wow. You just released a selection of music, new music that you've been working on during the pandemic. Would you tell us about Take Good Care and the collaboration between the nursing colleagues at Vanderbilt, and how did this happen? And just, fill us in on this.
Sure. Last year, I'm sure for you too, everything was suddenly canceled. All the plans that I had to do music were completely gone. And a friend of mine, Graham Weber, who runs the House of Songs, suggested to me that I start writing with coworkers since I was kind of stuck there anyway. So I wrote 5 songs with my coworkers. We didn't do it while we were on shift, but we got together and after work or whatever and penned these songs, and they were kind of about what it means to take care of each other throughout a stressful time, what it's like to take care of patients, some of our fears, how to cope with things, and it formed this little body of work that I called Take Good Care. One of the songs is called Take Good Care, and we recorded them a little later in the year, and here they are. I'm releasing one a week, and they'll all be out in the next couple weeks. So it's fun to share them with the world. And I wrote with people
exciting.
that hadn't written before too. So a couple people I wrote with knew how to do that, and the other people were kind of new to it. But it was a really, really fun and rewarding experience.
That's amazing. Wow. That must have been healing and connective too. I can imagine. I mean, I can't imagine how brilliant of a way that is to connect with the people that you're around so often in a time like that.
Yeah, and we're really close because we work in end of life care. So, we already have a really close bond. And to discuss how we were feeling and sort of process those things, it really was a healing experience.
Wow. That's incredible. Well, I'm really excited to check out the project Take Good Care coming out as we speak, happening as we speak. Today, though, you've chosen to sing a song quite appropriately because Father's Day is coming up. Do a song that honors all the ways, seen and unseen, that father figures influence and care for the ones that they love. And I'm excited for you to sing. I'm a big fan of the song myself, so I'm really excited for you to perform this.
Thank you so much. I will try to do it justice. Lately I've been noticing I say the same things he used to say. I even find myself acting the very same way. I tap my fingers on the table to the rhythm in my soul, jingle the car keys when I'm ready to go. When I look in the mirror, he's right there in my eyes, staring back at me, and I realize the older I get, the more I can see how much he loved my mother and my brother and me. And he did the best that he could. I only hope when I have my own family, every day I see a little more of my father and me. There were times I thought he was being just a little bit hard on me, but now I understand he was making me become the one he knew I could be. And everything he ever did, he always did with love. And I'm proud to say that I'm the one. When somebody says, I hope I get to meet your dad, I smile and say, you already have. The older I get, the more I can see how much he loved my mother and my brother and me. And he did the best that he could. I only hope when I have my own family, that every day I see a little more of my father and me. He's in my eyes, my heart, my soul, my hands, my pride. And when I feel alone, I hear him saying, you will be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. The older I get, the more I can see he loved my father and my brother and me. And he did the best that he could. I only hope when I have my own family, every day I see, oh, I hope I see, I hope every day I see a little more of my father in me.
And the crowd goes wild.
Wow. Oh,
Brilliantly done. Oh my gosh.
Great
Thank you so
song.
much.
So thanks for asking me to play it. It's a wonderful song.
Well, I'm so grateful that you took the time to join us and tell us about the work that you're doing. We're very grateful for the work that you do, both in music and in care. Because as we're going to discuss and as we have discussed, they go hand in hand. And we sincerely appreciate you taking time to join us for One Mind Brainwaves. And also, we're very excited to check out your new project, Take Good Care. So we'll be looking for that. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure was mine. Thank you so much.
So on this special Father's Day edition of Brainwaves, a father and son, it makes sense, right? But this was really special, and I'm very excited that I'm here for it, here to share their own story of managing, caregiving, and recovery from serious psychiatric illness. Brandon Staglin and Garen Staglin. Brandon Staglin is the president of One Mind. He's also the regular host of this program. And Garen is the co-founder of One Mind and the current chairman of One Mind's board of directors. He's also Brandon's dad, as you might have guessed. Viewers, this is where I tell everybody, feel free to post your thoughts, your questions for our guests in the comments section anytime. We always invite conversation, and we love having you guys as part of the conversation. So I guess, Brandon, if it's okay, I'll start with you. Viewers of this program may or may not know your background. I know for myself, I know a little bit about it, but I'm excited to hear more about it. If we could start at the beginning, take us back to the early 90s. How did you know you were experiencing a serious mental health condition, and what led to the diagnosis?
Yeah, Hunter, I want to say thank you for interviewing us today. It's great to talk with you. I'll tell my story. I'll start with that. So during my freshman year in college, it was a stressful year for me. There was some culture shock moving from the West Coast, where I'd grown up, to the East Coast, to New Hampshire, Dartmouth, where I was studying for college. And that stressful year involved a lot of academic challenges, a lot of social challenges, and including breaking up with my first serious girlfriend, which was really a rocky breakup, especially for me. The stress of that year was putting a lot of thoughts in my head about what it meant for me to be who I was. Was I fit to be an adult? Was I worthy to be loved by others? And I was at home, in my parents' home, after coming back from college just after that freshman year. And my parents happened to be away on a trip to France at the time. So all these stressful thoughts were kind of circling around in my head. And one evening, they kind of came to a head in that I had a psychotic episode. And it felt to me like all of the emotions that I was used to feeling were completely gone. I felt like half my identity had disappeared. And I was afraid actually, that if I let any new experiences come in through, say, the right half of my body, that I would have a new self emerging within me, like some other identity within me. And that was very scary for me to think of at the time. These are what we call delusions, the beliefs that people who have psychosis experience and believe are true, even though there's no way they could be true. And all of this, all the psychosis I experienced led me ultimately to a friend who was in the area. And even though I couldn't sleep for several nights, she and her mom took me in one night and let me stay at their home one night. Next morning, they took me to a psychiatric hospital because they knew they couldn't take care of me in the state that I was in. And that's where I very reluctantly agreed to partake in care. I was afraid of what care could do. I felt a lot of self-stigma around the idea of having a serious mental illness that I couldn't handle on my own. And I was afraid of what side effects of treatment might do. So that was where the reluctance came from. But in the long run, getting treatment within a few days of my first episode has been key to my ultimate recovery. And there have been many other factors that lead into that, including the loving support of my family, staying involved in the community. I'm happy to explain more about that later. But the journey began there for my recovery.
Wow. Garen, a serious diagnosis like this, I can imagine might be, painful or difficult for any parent to hear. You chose to essentially embrace it and tackle it head on, took an active role in researching and participating in the treatment. What were your feelings at the time, and what effect did the adjustment from paternal role to caregiver and partner have on your relationship together?
Well, Hunter, there as a parent, your most, I guess, precious thing is your children, right? And see Brandon go from this high achieving, 1600 on his SATs, thinking about developing nuclear fusion for interstellar space travel, to be a person who couldn't sleep in a bed with the bunk bed above him and was having this incredibly difficult, painful, suicide level of psychotic, you go from the nurturing, encouraging, pushing, helping mode to whatever it is that it's going to take to get him back. My wife said, look, we've lost our son. We have to do whatever we have to do to get him back. And so I was very fortunate, Hunter, that at that time I had sold a company and I was between things. So I wasn't in the usual mode I'm in, which is, leading an organization or having to drive, 24/7. I literally devoted myself completely to his recovery. And it was every day I said to him, what do you want to do today? Some days he would want to do nothing. Some days we would go for a run. And I think we decided together that we go take a trip. So we just booked a flight to go to Europe and spend 10 days, 2 weeks together. And it was one of the great experiences we had together to try to convince him that he could recover and he would recover. And there was no option not to, but we had to do this together. And since that time, it's been our journey and our mission together to not only keep Brandon on this very important role of tragedy to triumph, but do whatever we can to help others get on that same pathway and provide that hope. So it's been a turning time and talent to this very important cause, because what more important could there be than to restore the life of your son and to try to do that for others.
Wow. That's incredible. Brandon, you say that recovery is empowered through science and love and agency. From your perspective, how did your father influence your recovery, and to what extent do you think the patient, takes responsibility for his or her own treatment? Everybody's balance is going to be different. How do you find that balance?
Yeah, great question. So, my family has been instrumental in my recovery from the very beginning. As Garen explained, there were moments when I didn't want to go on, when I felt that I couldn't go on. And I felt that I would never be the person that I once was. But he and my mom, Sherry, had faith in me that one day I would be back to be the person again who could do things that matter in my life for myself, the family, for the community. And so they insisted, for example, that I take my medication, something I didn't want to do at the very beginning. I felt, I didn't like the side effects, and I didn't like the idea of being a patient, mental health patient. I thought I want to just let this all go and do my own thing. But they're always there to encourage me and make sure that I stayed with a treatment plan. But what was really helpful for them to do, something that Garen touched on a moment ago, and that is to partner with me as someone who is there to work with me, not to dictate what to do, but to work with me on what to do for my own recovery. And they encouraged me to talk to my psychiatrist about adjusting my medications when they weren't the right combination, the right dose. So I did. And they also helped me to get to not only treatment, but also to community activities that were meaningful for me during that recovery period. So I volunteered at the Oakland Zoo studying chimpanzee behavior, something that fascinated me at the time. And I also volunteered at the Marine Mammal Center in Sausalito, where I took care of sick and injured seals and sea lions, which is very meaningful for me too. And these things kept me engaged in the community, brought me a sense of what I call agency, the ability to do something I cared about and to be active in that. And so this gave me a sense of purpose and drive. But beyond that partnership between me as a patient or as a person recovering, put it that way, and my parents, my dad had a great influence on me in ways that, and my mom too, in ways that go beyond just the support, but the love was very important too. And happy to talk more about that in a little bit.
That's amazing. Garen, when it comes to the recovery path, how important is flexibility in thinking and or planning? And also, how do you care for your own mental health on this journey?
Well, as a person who's been successful in business, you want to sort of get things organized, align resources, assign tasks, get people to do the job and monitor things and keep going. This is not how this works when it comes to recovery, because it is anything but a certainty. And as a parent, what we all want is the silver bullet. We want them to take the pill or get the treatment, and then everything's going to be fine. It'll be just back the way it was. But in fact, that is not what it is. So when you use the word flexibility, Hunter, I think the word I would use is patience. And you've got to have the patience to understand that the most important thing in his recovery is unconditional love. You have to just be there for him all the time, even when he doesn't want you there. And there were times when that was exactly the case, because as a parent, he doesn't want to have this illness. And one of the things that you would do normally is sort of, if you're angry about this, you're going to reach out to the people that are most close to you, which, guess what, is your parent. So there were times that he would be angry with us or hostile with us, or there were times that were when he was at Dartmouth and I would go and visit him, fly across the country, drive. I don't know if any of you have been to Hanover, New Hampshire, but it's not exactly on the beaten path. And you got to drive 3 hours over black ice from Boston. I would get there and he would say, I can't see you right now. And he would say that because I knew that he was trying to deal with this torment of the voices and trying to manage these things. And so my response was, that's fine. I'm here. I'm checking myself into this hotel, Hanover Inn. I'll be here all weekend. If you've got time, I'm here. If not, I just want you to keep getting better. Well, he eventually did come over one of those days, but there were other instances like that. But you've got to demonstrate this unconditional love. Otherwise, they're never going to get better. And then to your other point, you do have to take care of yourself. Because your first reaction as a parent is to feel like you did something wrong. You start blaming each other. Sherry and I said, oh, we pushed him too hard. We made him skip this grade. That was your fault. No, it was your fault. You got to eliminate all that. It really has to be, do not do that, because no one has any shame here. There should be no blame. You have to focus on the patient. You have to take care of yourself. So you need to inform yourself, understand these illnesses, and take care of each other. We were recommended to see a therapist. We did talk to a great doctor a couple of times, and that really helped us understand, get through that very difficult time. But Hunter, these illnesses break up a lot of families because they don't have that support for each other, and they don't have the ability or resources to care for the person. And it can be very much a downward spiral. So you have to embrace each other and take care of each other in order to get through this.
Yeah, and they just celebrated their 50th anniversary a few years ago, so they'd come through this with flying colors.
Yeah.
I think ultimately our relationship as a family altogether has grown more strong. My father, mother, sister Shannon, and me, the family I was born into, because of our experience with my condition recovery. It's really brought us together in a common cause now, working with One Mind, the organization that we run together, and really grateful you're a part of this now too as a champion. Thank you.
Very grateful to be part of this and to have these conversations with you. Thank you guys so much for sharing all of this. Brandon, at one critical point, Garen told you there's a lot of love coming from here, Brandon, and I want to talk about that moment. Let's zoom in on what started in you, and how would you say the empathy for what your father was going through, along with his unconditional support? How did that help in your recovery, and also how did that impact your relationship?
Yeah. So that was a hard moment for me as it began. So I was very depressed. It was during, it was a few months after I was trying different medications and none of them were working well. And I had awful side effects, and I didn't think I would ever, I said there'd be no light at the end of the tunnel. This could be me for the rest of my life, or whatever that would mean. And I was kind of shuffling around the house and looking down at the floor, and I wandered into the kitchen that morning, And my dad was there eating breakfast, but I barely noticed him. I was too wrapped up in my own thoughts, my own concerns about myself. And I just stared at the floor. And that's when he said that. He said, "There's a lot of love coming from here, Brandon." And I looked at him and I saw in the steadiness of his gaze that he meant what he said. And it was a far cry from the kind of things we talked about a lot over the past couple of months, like take your medication, you've gotta see a doctor. And this is a totally different thing. And it was the most profound thing about love he'd ever said to me at the time. And that's when it hit me. He was going through a lot too. That I was simultaneously embarrassed that my weakness and having this illness had hurt him, because I knew he was going through a lot of pain at the time, and relieved that he loved me anyway.
Mhm.
He was still there for me. And he talks about that now, about having to go to a different level in his unconditional love. And my mom had to do the same thing, to kind of evolve in their ability to be there for me, no matter what it took. And I'm so, so grateful that you have been there all along. Thank you.
Wasn't an option. Yeah, there was no option.
And that in and of itself is unconditional love.
Mhm.
That's incredible. I want to remind everybody that's watching right now, first of all, thank you for joining us. We're very happy to have you. We're talking about a father and son partnership through mental illness with Brandon Staglin, the president of One Mind and the host of Brainwaves, and his father, Garen Staglin, the co-founder of One Mind. He's also the chairman of One Mind's board of directors. I always say this, but just a quick reminder, please don't forget, if you have any questions, comments, or thoughts, or anything you'd like to share, please post them anytime in the comments. We love when you're part of the conversation. And if you know anybody who can benefit from this conversation, please, or the information or the education, is the word that I use, because I feel like every time I leave this, I feel more educated about all of these topics. But if you know anybody that can benefit from this conversation, please share it. Share the webcast with them. Invite them to the next one as well. We love having new people join us. So thank you. So continuing on the conversation, Garen, you founded One Mind in 1995 with the Music Festival for Brain Health, which is now an annual event. What obviously I'm instantly curious, because it's a music festival for brain health. That's a lot of my favorite things in one. What was your goal? What did you want to do? And how did Brandon's experience and your own make you want to help others with these challenges and do what you're doing now?
Yeah. So just to track the timeline back, Hunter, it was 1990 when Brandon had that psychotic break. It was the summer of that year. And we were devoted in the first several years of that journey to just getting him back on track, getting him into a system of care. Who would have thought that when we finally got the diagnosis that he had schizophrenia, we would be in some way happy with that, because at least we knew what the problem was. And then we could know with an accurate diagnosis what we should be doing, what medications we should be trying, what therapies might work. So we're really just all in on that effort. And it paid off, because he went back to school. I wouldn't say he was well. I mean, he wasn't the same joking, happy, dancing guy that he was before, but he was very functional, as witnessed by the fact he graduated on time with honors in a dual major. And it was soon after that, we just looked at ourselves and said, you know what? We are really fortunate here. And we have two choices. We can run away from this problem, which so many parents do, because they feel like maybe they did something wrong. So God, it's just a lot easier not to talk about it. We'll just sweep this under the rug and pretend like it never happened. Well, that was not a choice we wanted to make. We said we need to devote ourselves to run towards the problem. And Hunter, I think you know that our family has this wonderful wine business that my wife runs and my daughter is the president of. And we would donate our wines to the museum of this and the symphony for that and this or that event. And we said, nobody's doing anything for brain health or mental health. And we can make a difference here. So why don't we use our vineyard, use our friends in the wine business, and why don't we host an event that do nothing else than to raise awareness about these illnesses and create an environment where it'd be safe for people to talk about it. So then that first year, that was really what we wanted to do. Let's just try to do something to change the narrative about this these illnesses. And so we ended up where we were at another wine event in Birmingham, Alabama, and a great chef, Charlie Trotter, bless his heart, is no longer with us. But he said, wow, it's a charity event. I'll do the cooking. And we had another friend who was a conductor. And he said, well, look, I'll get an orchestra together and we'll perform music. And we talked to several of our neighbors and wine business and said, well, sure, we'll pour our wines. And so one thing came together. And in 1995, we had our first music festival. When we started, Hunter, we didn't even know what we were going to do with the money. So then we had to figure out, how do we find a way to move forward? And we ultimately came to a path as we need to find ways to accelerate science, because this is not going fast enough. And we could do something great, maybe we could help families not have to go through what we went through and what Brandon had to go through. And maybe we could identify these illnesses earlier. And nothing's better in medicine if you can do prevention, right, as opposed to reaction. And so over the course of time, we've actually fulfilled on that mission with a wonderful project. It started with 9 sites in a multi-site study called Naples. And now Brandon is leading the evolution of that study into a wonderful program called Aspire. And all that's on our website. And we encourage people to check that out. But because just think about the fact that just like you could go to the doctor and prevent heart disease or reduce its impact, or diabetes, we're now at the place, because of this research, we can do the same thing for kids on the verge of serious mental illness and change the outcome and prevent that from happening. So, and that's been our goal from the very beginning, change the outcome for people so families and individuals don't have to go through what we did. We have added to that goal the very realization that if we don't do something about stigma, that's really a lack of understanding and the discrimination that comes from it, we will be short-sighted in our goal. And so this program that we're so fortunate to have you be a champion of is really one of our ways to do that. Media helps us get the message out and normalizes this conversation. And we're doing another program where we're helping corporations change their culture called One Mind at Work, where we get the CEOs of companies of the size starting from Walmart on down to help them understand how important as leaders they can be to influence the lives of their employees and their dependents. And we're now over 100 organizations and close to 8 million employees and 20 million dependents now that are working under this charter. And our goal is to get to 100 million employees. So our vision has expanded, our goals have increased based on the success, and Brandon's ability to be the nation's leading patient advocate. We're so proud of him. We're rallying behind him to push this forward.
That's incredible.
Yeah, thanks, Dad. I appreciate the vote of confidence there. There are many great patient advocates out there and people with lived experience advocating for mental health, and I'm proud to be one of those people.
As a father, I get to say you're the best.
Okay, all right. Yeah, thank you very much. But I have to be honest, and in the beginning, I didn't want any part of this. Yeah. When I was very sick, when they first started the music festival, I was afraid to be in the limelight. I didn't feel like I was the person I wanted to be. Like I felt less than other people due to the illness that I had. And I think that's just part of the stigma that people sometimes experience with these conditions. But what changed for me when that changed was when I learned from people coming to the music festival about their own experiences with mental health. And I read an article in a Seattle newspaper about a music festival donor and her son who'd gone through a similar challenge. Like he had schizophrenia as well. He had a good recovery for a while, and then he went off his medications, as I had done a couple of years before, and had an awful relapse just like I had. But for him, he wasn't coming back. His story hit me really hard. And the injustice of the healthcare system not being able to take care of folks who need the help, and having outcomes like his at the time were just wrong. I felt that was wrong, and I wanted to help other people experiencing similar challenges. So I knew then that I had a story I could share and a platform to share it from. So I began to blog for One Mind back in around mid 2000s, and I became the first communications director for One Mind at that time. And I built the first website for the music festival, and it's something that I was very proud of. And so over the years, I've done a lot of public speaking. I started this webcast, Brainwaves, in 2011, and been very grateful for the opportunity to reach people with One Mind's work. And so that brings us to where I was able to get a degree in Master of Science in Healthcare Administration and Interprofessional Leadership from UCSF a couple of years ago. Very grateful for the opportunity to do that and become president of One Mind, leading this amazing team to the work Garen just explained. And it means a lot to me.
That's amazing. What do you think it'll take to make recovery from serious illnesses like this common?
Well, it's a variety of things, but first and foremost, the program that Garen was talking about, Aspire, is all about helping young people starting to experience the early stages of serious psychiatric illness or serious mental illness, to put it another way, to thrive instead of going down the path of tragedy, instead of going down the path of incarceration or homelessness or suicide in many cases, way too many cases. And we have friends who've had loved ones who've gone down that path. So it means a lot to us to do this. But to help these young folks, it's important to get to them as early as possible, like I had the benefit of. It's important to screen young people on a large scale to be able to do this so that we can, as a society, help them to get the care they need as early as possible. So One Mind is working on a program as part of Aspire to develop screening and implement it so people can get the care that they need. And then it's important to give them that care once they're in a care setting. That is the best we can possibly do. Care that not only provides medical treatment, but also provides supportive education and employment to get them back on their feet so they can work again, succeed in school again, have relationships again that are meaningful to them, like I had the benefit of. And then also to work with the patient or the individual as somebody who is a valued person and work with their values and their goals and their dreams, because that's what really counts. If somebody's going to recover from a serious mental illness, they need to be part and parcel of that process. They need to be central to that process and know that they are and own that for themselves. So all these factors are critical. So we're working to expand and improve this model of what we call coordinated specialty care, which has come out of the 27 years of research that we've led across the U.S.
Hunter, I'd add a couple of things to that. I would say that we got to keep working on this terrible word we call stigma. And what does that come from? It really comes from a lack of understanding. We got to change the dialogue to understand these are diseases of chemicals, not character. And so we need to understand that we're all on a spectrum of brain health, and we need to normalize that. So we don't look at someone and say, oh, there's a person, let's go the other way. Let's embrace them because, we're all now, given what's happened with COVID, anxiety, separation, we're all on a depressed level of that brain health spectrum that we're all on. So we need to work on the education. We have to normalize the dialogue. In our media work, we're actually sponsors of a major new Ken Burns film that's going to come out in April of next year. That's actually going to highlight the crisis of youth at risk, very much to the topic that Brandon has said. That'll be on every PBS station throughout the country. And importantly, the content will be repurposed to over 2 million teachers throughout the United States. And that will help starting this early education that Brandon will just alluded to. I don't know, Hunter, when it was that you first heard a word like schizophrenia, depression, but I'm sure it was much later in your life. And then it was like, whoa, I don't want to have any of that. Whatever that word is, it doesn't sound right to me. But once you understand what these are, no one's done anything wrong here, we'll take that. And then the other thing it takes is we got to keep driving research. We don't understand circuits, signaling, and the genetic. We understand a lot now about the genes. We don't have the gene therapies that would ultimately lead us to cure it. And for those of you listening, we can't just rely on NIMH or the government. We need private philanthropy to come along and help us fuel programs that help us drive outcomes. Because too often research is about writing a paper about the other 10 mice that they cured. We're done with mice curing. We want to help people curing, and we need the private philanthropy to help us do that. And that's where I would say stigma reduction, research to get more evidence-based treatments, and then that goal you described will happen.
Yeah. What along that topic, and then I want to break away for a different question in a second, but what words of advice do you have for people who are, struggling, or who have loved ones who are struggling with a serious mental health condition?
So, yeah, I'm happy to jump in there. So, the person that you love who's struggling is still that person. They're still there. They may not seem like it, and they may not act like it. And they may behave in ways that are hurtful, like Aaron was talking about earlier, like I was hostile to them. My family, that was my illness talking at the time. And I own that I did those things, and I try to make amends. And I believe my family's been very forgiving. And of course, that's the unconditional love that we talked about. But that person is still there. And after years of experimentation, trying different treatments with my doctor's help and caregiver's help, and trying different and staying involved in things that have meant a lot to me to do. Some lifestyle changes as well, getting plenty of sleep, something that's important. After all these things, I feel great about who I am. Finally, again, I feel a whole person again, not less than, but a whole person. And that, I think, in that regard, I'm living proof that you can recover from even serious psychiatric illness. So if you're a caregiver, bear that in mind. Your loved one is still there. You can see them and just as they were, and as you remember them again.
Yeah, I talked a lot about those things earlier. Patience, unconditional love, inform yourself, take care of yourself. But to this last point with Brandon, I think that's the last one I would add, which is go for great. It might be a different great, but your loved one will be great again. And don't settle for just good enough. If the medications are not working right, if they aren't really that person that you know is thriving, don't settle for just muddling along with that and say it's okay. Change the medication balance, find another doctor, try neuroplasticity, use One Mind Cyber Guide. You're going to talk about that later. Help retrain your brain with neuroplasticity. Oftentimes young people they don't want to take pills, but they'll respond to that. Use the wonderful endorphins that come from exercise. Get your body right so that you can get your brain right. So I would say go for great. And it might be a different great, but it's still going to be great. And Brandon is the perfect example of that.
That's incredible. Brandon, how has all of this changed your relationship with your dad?
Yeah, it's changed it a lot. I remember when I was experiencing really bad symptoms, when I was really sick back in the 90s. As he said, I was a little bit hostile, like back off some of the time. That was my attitude. And I was young and I wanted to define myself as an independent adult, and that's natural. But also, but when I understood his unconditional love and my mom's unconditional love and my sister's unconditional love and now my wife's love. And
dog and rabbits.
Yeah. And animals at home. I'm so grateful for the love that all of them have shown me and provided me with. And getting to work with my dad, my mom, my sister every day here at One Mind is just so satisfying. They're a constant source of support and solace and strength. So that's how it is.
That's incredible. That's incredible that you guys have that solid teamwork thing. Mm-hmm. That's phenomenal. I feel a little bit of pressure because now this is the point where we do a lightning round. Brandon, you usually ask these questions. Now I'm asking you. So I'm going to flip it to take the pressure off. I want to start with Garrett, if I may. What types of music, literature, art where do you go when you're feeling low?
Billy Joel, really big fan. Love that music. Upbeat, keeps me going. Literature, I like to read inspirational stories about individuals and their leadership and how they've overcome things. I'm reading Barack Obama's a new book. It's quite enjoyable for me to do. And art, we've got art is all around. Art is the nature of this vineyard and this environment they're in, and just getting in it and spending time is a wonderful joy and release for me.
Brandon, what would you say? What are your music, literature, art? Where do you go?
Bruce Springsteen. When I remember a time a few years ago when I was just feeling so depressed and down, a song "Better Days" came on the radio, and I thought, yes, it's just what I need to hear. So inspiring, his music.
That's amazing. Okay, Garen, talk to me about a hobby, activity. What helps you unwind? What calms you down?
5 a.m. on the elliptical or the bike. Just got to get up early, get going, get that, clear your head. I can't swim and I can't do yoga first thing in the morning. My wife tried to get us to do that. I'm not in the mood of relaxing and doing namaste at 5 a.m. I got to get the day going. I got all these things happening. So that's where I go. That's how I unwind and feel calm. At the end of the day, sitting on our loggia, looking out at the vineyard, I could do that, and that helps me calm down. Just talk about the day with my wife, with Sherry and I. That helps me also.
That's amazing. Brandon, what about you?
Similar. I get up every morning and exercise. My parents taught me that. It's essential for my health and mental health. I never miss a day. I also like to meditate. I do that, try to do that every day, either in the morning or if I miss that in the afternoon. It brings me a lot of perspective on life. And then, of course, spending quality time with my wife, our animals, and when I'm here with my mom and dad is really a really beautiful thing to be able to do.
That's
and
awesome.
COVID has helped me do more of that. I used to do a lot of traveling, and I anticipate I will, but being at home has helped me do more of that.
Yeah, it's kind of forced slowing down a little bit. Okay, as we move past the pandemic, what are you grateful for? / what are you looking forward to for Father's Day? Garen?
I would echo what a kind of a different version of what we said before. We have a family mission statement, and the first thing on that mission statement is family comes first. And so I'm most grateful for our family, the closeness we have, the integration of our wine business, our philanthropy, and the ability for me to take the other business I'm involved in and drive them forward and use those contacts in our world. So I think it's how we've just marriage. We have this model of great wine for great causes, and there's no greater cause for us than brain health and mental health. And the fact we get to do it all together, it's an incredible joy. The other two members of the family you didn't mention, we have 2 grandchildren. Now one who's 5, Cicely, and a grandson, Arthur, who's 3.5. And the other blessing of this COVID thing is that I got to spend this 14 months watching them grow up. It had been what was before, I would have missed most of that, right? So it's been wonderful to be a part of that. Looking forward to more of it.
That's great to hear. Brandon, what about you?
I'm grateful that I'm alive. As Garen alluded to, I did contend with suicidal thoughts and seriously considered that for a number of years while I was recovering. And I'm grateful that I didn't, that wanting to experience new things, knowing that I could discover new things in life with the support of my family as part of that, kept me going during that really rough time. And here I am today, leading this organization that means so much to me, and doing work that helps other people out in the community and in the world. That means a lot to me. So I'm grateful for that, as well as the personal life that I have, the family life that I have with my wife and our animals.
That's beautifully put. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. What we've kind of touched on this, so I'm trying to find a new way to ask this, but so viewers, what's one thing that we can do right now to help reduce the stigma around these issues and these conversations?
Go ahead.
Well, my answer would be to reiterate what I said. I guess two things. Understand that right now it's okay not to be okay, and everyone is not as okay as they were before. And use this idea that brain health is a spectrum. Notice I didn't say mental illness. Let's work on the positive side. Brain health is a spectrum. We're all on it. Let's all strive for brain fitness. Some of us have a longer way to go in that journey, but use that as the narrative to normalize brain health as a condition for all of us.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and we know that people who experience brain health challenges have their own strengths. Perhaps other people don't necessarily have. It's a topic, it's a concept called neurodiversity. And the idea is that everybody has their own unique personality, their own unique brain, and it gives them their own unique abilities to contribute to the world as well as to their own lives. So, for example, a study has shown that people with schizophrenia have better developed what's called the occipital lobe in the back of the brain, which may give different capabilities for people with schizophrenia. And so there's that concept. And then not only can you embrace that as an individual who experienced brain health challenges, but also embrace the idea that your story matters, that your story is meaningful for others to hear. If you feel comfortable sharing your story, other people will definitely resonate with what you have to share, and it'll give them strength in what they are going through. So I've experienced that and have many people thank me for sharing my own story. And Hunter, thank you for sharing your stories. You've done so well in the media over the past few days and weeks. I think you understand that too.
I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity. What gives you hope moving forward?
Well, I'll start with the science. I think it's never been better. We know stuff that we never knew before. 10 years ago, if you said, here's more money, go faster, but we couldn't do it. Today we can. I mean, we have imaging technology where we can tell a healthy brain from a sick brain. That's all in this predictive preventive mode that we're in. We can light up circuits now called optogenetics, and we can see how that kind of signaling goes from one part to the other, or where these pathways might be impaired. We've got the genome has allowed us to identify over 300 mutations associated with schizophrenia, with having done over hundreds of thousands of people. That the first genome cost us $3 billion. We can now do it for $300. So that's allowing us to get much deeper into the understanding of this that will ultimately lead to cellular therapy. So think about that. So if you have a mutation on a gene, we now have technology that can deliver a molecule to that gene that will help it, now that because it's producing the wrong proteins, reprogram itself and produce the right proteins. And that wrong protein downstream leads to these chemical imbalances that leads to these illnesses. So look, we're a ways away from that, but I believe that because 70 is a new 50, I'm going to see this happen, and I'm committed to being here when it does.
That's amazing, Brandon. Yeah.
Yeah, so the science gives me a lot of hope too. I've been the beneficiary of a scientifically developed treatment, Garen alluded to it earlier, called neuroplasticity-based treatment. It's cognitive training, something I did on a laptop, and you can do it on a smartphone now. Helped me remold my neural pathways in my brain so that I could concentrate better and participate in conversations better and enjoy them more. And thus I could reintegrate into social life again, right? And work again within a few months after doing that. So that was in the 1990s and snowballed since then. So that gives me hope that science can help others. But what really gives me hope is that people are talking more about mental health. That people are open about mental health, and they don't have to live in the shadows anymore. So
everybody's talking about it. Gold medal Olympic athletes, actresses, everyone. So it's what's the term in media? I think it's like the zeitgeist, right? It's now happening. So, and if COVID maybe has done one good thing, which is put a spotlight on the anxiety and depression that's out there, but we can't let this moment of opportunity leave us. So let's get more people involved. Let's keep this dialogue going, and let's make sure that we slingshot our momentum now that we're vaccinated. Let's now work on the second wave, which is this wave of anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress. It's affecting all of us. Way more people than have gotten COVID or died from COVID. There's way more people who will die from these illnesses and are suffering from them. So let's make it a mission, a national priority. We have yet to do that. We did it with AIDS. We did it with cancer. We did it with heart disease. Now is our turn. Brain health should be the next place we go as a country, a nation, and as a world.
How's that for a lightning strike?
Beautifully put, and very important for people to hear and acknowledge and join in that conversation. Guys, thank you so much for letting me join you for this chat. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you did. I think it's so helpful, for people. I think oftentimes too, brain health and certain weaknesses around brain health get minimized, and it's easy to talk ourselves out of having these conversations. And I think it's just so beautiful to hear your story, for you to share all the details, for us to understand how important it is to address these things the right way and to talk about it as brain health. And I'm very, very grateful for you both being here on our special Father's Day edition. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hunter.
So real quick, we're going to talk to the One Mind Cyber Guide. They have a take on an app that is designed with men in mind, and we're going to hear from them about MindMax.
Hello, my name is John Bunny, and I'm a digital mental health specialist at One Mind Cyber Guide. We spend lots of time talking to people about mental health apps, what they like about them and what they don't like about them. In our research, we've heard from lots of people that one barrier to using mental health apps are concerns about privacy and security. This is understandable, as in some cases you might be entering sensitive, private information about your well-being, which you don't want other people to see. Just like any other technology you use, you should only use apps you trust and are confident in their ability to protect your data. Any app you use should have a privacy policy that informs you about how the app handles your data. In a recent study, we found that over half of apps for depression don't have a privacy policy. You can check for a policy in the App Store at the bottom of the app page. If an app doesn't have a policy or you are unsure of the security of the app, avoid using it. At One Mind Cyber Guide, we review privacy policies to check if key pieces of information about what happens to your data are covered in the policy. We believe developers should be as transparent as possible about how they handle data, so you can make informed choices about the apps you use. MindMax aims to help people build and strengthen a resilient mind. There are 4 main sections of the homepage: Train, Community, Gym, and Me. Share opens a community forum where you can share any of your achievements or thoughts with other MindMax community members. Train allows you to choose lessons and informational modules to build resilience and well-being. There are 8 training sessions available that you can complete in any order. The Gym section provides exercises and games to help with mental well-being. Me allows you to update your avatar, view progress and activities, and update personal settings or privacy settings. MindMax was developed by the Australian Football League with funding from the Movember Foundation, a nonprofit which looks at mental health through a male lens, focusing on prevention, early intervention, and health promotion. We've reviewed MindMax at One Mind Cyber Guide, where it scores a 2.0 out of 5 for credibility and 4.12 out of 5 for user experience. Stay tuned next week for another app review.
Well, thank you so much to the Cyber Guide team. Also, huge shout out to Megan Palmer. Thank you so much for joining us. We're very excited to hear about your new project. We'll be looking out for it. Brandon and Garen Staglin, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your story. Also, happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
And a shout out to my dad, probably watching this at home. Happy Father's Day to you as well. I'll call you in a second. But also to all the father figures out there. We thank you. We're grateful for you. And to all of our viewers, thank you. Thanks for joining us. You join us all the time. We're grateful you were here for this one. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for involving yourselves in the conversation. And don't forget to post questions. Don't forget to share with your friends if you feel like this will help them. And also just check out the rest of the Brainwaves pod episodes. There's so many, and there's so many great conversations that have happened in the past. We'd love for you to be a part of those as well. It's onemind.org/brainwaves. Super easy. So I'll close with that. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for letting me be here with you. Be good to yourselves, be good to the world around you, and we'll see you next time on Brainwaves.
Every day trying to find the strength. I just want things to go back to normal.
Science is racing to find treatments for the virus. Vaccines are on the horizon.
I don't know what to do.
But what about the mental health research needed to sustain our lives during and after the crisis? OneMind is funding the science to revolutionize treatments and provide hope. OneMind, accelerating brain health for all. Help us fund new treatments at onemind.org.